Hello everyone, welcome to your 13th tutorial on Ionic with Firebase, and right now we are getting into Firebase. In this tutorial we'll look at how to create a user or create a user account from Ionic using Firebase. Well, first of all, we have to create it from Firebase itself, so go to your Firebase console and let's just manually add a user. As you can see, there is a pop-up here where we have to decide what the user email will be, user email at gmail.com, and what the user password will be let's just say password. Okay, at the end you just add the user, and there you have it. So you have a user email, you have providers. This shows you the provider, the sign-in method, which is the email password. That's why you're seeing this icon. If this guy was registered from Google or using your Google sign-up API, you would have this icon, or you have this icon for Facebook. Alright, remember you can edit the email templates when they try to reset their email or anything. Gives you the date too. Gives you the last signed in date, you understand, and gives you the user ID. Now this is all it gives you. That's like how many fields? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fields only. What if you wanted to save things like the user's location, the user's address, the user's picture and stuff like that? So what do? Well, this particular section of Firebase only handles these key details of the user. Remember, you can always delete the user. You can reset password from here. You can disable, you can delete as an admin. But what if you wanted more? And of course you can search. When you have so many users, it displays 500 at a time for one page. Then you can use this pagination icon here to navigate to subsequent pages. When you have lots of users, then you can search by typing the user email there, alright, or email address. Now if you wanted to save more details about this user, what you would do is, after creating the user from your app, you would take their user ID and use it to create a new table, if I may call it that way, in your database. This is your database where you create all your tables, if I may use the term tables. So you create a users table or users profile table. Then inside users profile table, the user ID will be the ID of the user that just registered. Then you can add more fields. You can add user location, address, city, phone number, and a whole lot of other things you need to add. Okay, so this one signs up the user. You take the ID from here, come to here, and create other things that you create a table and add other things. Okay. So if you want to upload data like picture, if you want to upload a picture or video, this is where you do it. We are getting to that. So we get back to our code, and in the past code I taught you how to use services. So we'll still use the same services. We will first of all, right here, we'll declare some variables for Firebase. In any page you will need to use Firebase, you will always have to import it. So we import everything as Firebase from Firebase. So that being sorted, we are going to come above our constructor. Here is our constructor. Above our constructor, you will declare some variables. So the first variable we want to declare is private fire any. So declare another one that we'll call user profile. Okay, and we have a constructor. We have a. Well, let's change this to public. Okay. We have a constructor. We have inside our constructor, we'll try and create Firebase references. So we said this fire out, this guy here, equal to Firebase dot out. the reference to Firebase authentication, so we can now look at stuff like user profile, firebase.database.ref. So the name of the table that I told you where we will save users' profile after we've created them. So what do we call this? I can just call it users. You can call yours anything. Alright, all these things I'm typing out here is not rocket science, because if you get to your Firebase account and you get to go to Docs, if you click on go to Docs, it opens the documentation section for you, and the code we're using is the JavaScript for the web. So you click on get started, and then you come to this part. Alright, we are currently doing authentication, so you go to authentication, click on web, and the things I'm writing here are all listed here. So for password authentication, which is what we are doing right now, where the user has to enter the email and password, this is where you see the codes. So whatever I'm doing right here is actually on the website. You can read more on the site. That being sorted out, we get back to the code, and so these are the two references we need. Remember, we just created the variable. We called it anything. I called it fire auth, my own. We called the reference to the users table, users profile. You can call yours anything, but this is from Firebase documentation. Then we need to create a function for login. Remember, the function we created before was to list users from a certain URL. So let's just create a function for login. I'm calling my own function login user. Now we have it. The login user will take in two parameters. The first one is the email, the second one is the password, and the password will be of the type string, and of course the email will be of the type string. Then we're basically looking to have this guy fire out to sign up with ops. Create user, this one we're looking for, and this is not login. We're not writing for login, we're writing for sign up user. All right, so we are like create user with password, and we have email, and we have password. All right, and so we said then new user. We just created a new variable that we call new user created, and we can say now this user has been created successfully. What we have to do is to sign in the user immediately. So you've created your account. We'll log you in by calling the function that logs users in according to Firebase. We'll call it sign in with email and password. It's there on the Firebase documentation. I'm modifying these functions a little so it can work with Ionic, so I'm not copying verbatim. So then we have authenticated user created, logged in created. Authenticated user, this is just a variable. We just say well, I want to return this to new user, and once we have our user authenticated, and now we have this user profile. Remember, we created this variable .child. I'll show you the meaning of this child. Authenticated user ID, that's the URL, this variable we just created here. This guy .uid, and then we'll do set. We'll get to the meaning of set and stuff like that. I will just explain a little of that in a moment. Email equals to email. All right, and that's it basically. Let's just quickly go over what we just did. What we did was okay, we created a function that takes in two parameters, which is the email and the password, and then we went to Firebase and copied in the documentation there the code for creating a user account, but we modified it a little so that it can work with Ionic. So the code takes in this is the name of the function. It takes in two parameters, which is email and password. Then it returns this on success, which is now it has succeeded. We can have successfully created. We try to sign in the user. So we sign in this user. This user is now logged in, and now that they are logged in, what we'll do is we create, because the login is successful. Login. We decided to create profile. So we went to user profile, which is in our database. We created these users. This set will go to this site, that Firebase reference, which is users, and go to this sub reference, which is authenticated user ID. So this guy that we just logged in has a user ID, and it will go to the guy's user ID and create an email. I'll show you what this means when we actually create a new user, so you understand it much more better. So, but this is the function that will sign up a user and log them in. All right. Now we have sorted this out. Let's go to our. So we quickly go to our login page. Remember that we have imported this user service here, and we have set it as a provider, and we have after the user logs in, we want the page to redirect to home page, so we have imported home page as well. And what we will now do is to write the login function. Log user in. That's what I want to call this function that I want to write. Remember, this is outside your constructor. This is your constructor, and I'm creating a function outside of it. Now what this function is going to do is this provider that we added, we added with a variable called user service. So we'll say this dot user service this user service will call the function that logs in a user, that signs up a user. We'll call it sign up user. What am I doing? Sign user up. Okay, we're trying to sign up a user, so sign user up. Then we call this service, and we get access to this function inside here. Then this function will pass in two parameters. What are the two parameters? The email field. Remember, in our login.html, we created a form that has this input field. The input field has a name of email field, and the password has password field. So that's what we're using here, and we have declared these variables on top of this place. So we come to this place and we open this, and we say this dot takes the email field and it takes the password field. So just like we declared in this here, we're to accept only two parameters, email and password. So we're calling this guy and we're passing in email and password. So it will register the user and register the user, log the user in, and finally creates an account, a profile page for the user. And then after it's successful with that, we are going to say then we have auth data equal to, we create this called a bracelets, and then we have successful. Now it's a success. What we have to do is we change what the home page will be. Our nav controller, we declare the navigation controller, then we set that the home page should be home page. I hope you do remember. That in our providers, no, in our app.ts, we set that if the user is logged in, okay, we set this as the home page if the user is not logged in. We're now saying that after login, the user should be redirected to home page. So that's what we are here. That's what we're doing right here. So assuming login is successful, redirect to home page. But if it's not successful, in case there is an error, this is what you will do. Alert. Let's just say, let me just paste a control. We would have just said alert error logging in. Then we output the error, which is error.message. So the person will get a random pop-up, but this is the basic JavaScript alert. So instead of just doing it, this is an opportunity to put you through what an alert should be. For instance, let's just leave it like this. Let's just put a loading controller, and we import something called loading controller. Then we add it to our constructor. You can say private loading control ctrl. This is a random variable I declared. You can declare yours. Then loading controller. Then you put your comma. So we can use this guy. We can say right here, no, after this. Once this function starts up, once the user clicks this, the user needs to see a loading icon, very nice loading stuff, while the Firebase goes to, your app goes to Firebase to log in the user and this stuff. So let's say loader. We declare a variable in, you can declare a variable in TypeScript with let's. So let's this dot loading controller, which we just declared in the variable here, loading controller dot create, and we can just say dismiss on page change true. Okay, and this is the part that will pop the guy up. So we set the variables, then we pop it up with this present. So what happens is that we've set the variable and said, hey, we need a loader that will keep loading. Once this thing influences a page change, the loader should stop. Okay, so that's it. Let's try our login function. So you get to login.html. On the page, we have the first login button, then we have register button. So let's say that this button should come here. This button, when someone clicks register, it should run this particular guy. Okay, function. All right, everything looking nice. Let's check on the website. Go to our app and wait for it to reload. Everything works fine, and the user has entered their dev partner and entered the password. Let's say password, and once this guy is there, we'll click register. Oops. So obviously we have an error. I'll try to inspect elements to see what error we have. So that's it. Debugging is a very important skill in in Ionic like this. You're debugging with your console, your command prompt, and you're debugging with your browser console. So to find our error, we'll go to our browser console first, which means you right click and click on inspect element. This console pulls up. Then we'll look for the red icon, markers here. So this one says error in build pages login.html. This is useless to you because you never created this file. This is the files it created after building. So this is not what you're looking for. So the main thing you're looking for is this type error. self.context.signup user is not a function. So that's not the main error, but I just want to show you. It's telling us that this is not a function. But of course, it's a function because we created it here. So the problem is not obviously from here. So we consult our console to see whether our console is spewing out some errors. And honestly, it has some errors. We have TypeScript error on line users.ts on line 48 and expected a semicolon on user service. So we'll go to user service line 48. And it's telling us that it expects a semicolon. Of course, we had a little mistake in our code, and you didn't tell me this guy is not supposed to close. So this is what it's supposed to be. So password then open first bracket, open this guy, then you put this variable here, then of course you close this guy. Then you close this guy here, of course. So let's go and check our app. So when we test it out, we see that it's not running, and we seem to have a second error. And of course, it says that the property ref does not exist on type of database, and that's on line 23. And if we get to our code on line user service on line 23, what we would have is ref, and which means we made a mistake. There's supposed to be this guy here. So once it's sorted out, we check our console one more time, and it's telling us that there's an error on line 36 of login.ts that it cannot find nav controller. So we get to login.ts line 36 and nav controller. Wow. So back to the error, it tells us that this guy does not exist on this type. So if we get back, we look and see that we didn't declare it. We would have put something like private here before that. And hopefully we're done with all the errors. And it compiles again to tell us if there is any further errors. So after fixing that, this time it works out all well. Remember that sometimes when you correct an error, your server may not take note of the error. What you have to do is you run Ionic serve lab again. You press Q to quit, then you run Ionic serve lab again if your server does not restart itself. Okay, so it has run again, so we now have to, let's just use a password of password. And then this is an email we want to register. When we click on register, we see this little icon here. We see this pop up, and this is our browser asking us if it wants to remember the password. Okay, update password, whatever. These are Chrome giving us pop up. But then you notice that this thing has redirected, and if you quickly go to your database, we will see that in Firebase we suddenly have devpartner@gmail.com. This is not my email. devpartner@gmail.com, and it has just signed up. And if we get to the database section, remember we told it to create a profile after registering. So it has created a profile called users. Remember we did it right here inside our users.ctp. This is it. We told it to create users, and this is the command. Set is what creates the user. This command creates users, and inside user it created this user ID again, which is what we have here. Inside user, as a child of user, create the user ID. That's what we have here. And then inside the user ID you can add email and maybe other things. So inside the user ID, we have email, and it saved the email. So that's it. The email we have here, and the name of the field is email. This email is the name of this field, and this other email is the content. Alright, so I hope you really enjoyed this. I'm really sorry this video was this long. It's just it was very important that you understand the whole process. In subsequent tutorials, we'll do the reset password, the whatever other parts of the user authentication system. But then it simply means that I will just copy and paste code and explain. I wouldn't have to write it all out like this again. Okay, so see you in the next video tutorial. Don't forget that the code for this is online on GitHub, on github.com/devozalo/fireblogger, and don't forget to star. Alright, star, it gives me some street credibility. Alright, so thank you very much. See you in the next video tutorial.